It's done. The Ring of Fire eclipse hit this morning at 4:11 a.m. Pacific, 7:01 a.m. Eastern, and if you're watching this right now, I need you to stop and ask yourself one question. Did you feel it? Not intellectually, not because you read about it. Did you actually feel something shift in your body this morning? A pulling sensation, a lightness, a clarity that wasn't there yesterday, a knowing that you're different now. Because if you did, congratulations. You're one of the women who just woke up wealthy. You passed through the portal, you died and came back as a queen. But if you didn't feel anything, if this morning felt the same as every other morning, if you woke up and checked your phone and went about your day without any sense that something fundamental just changed in your reality, I need to be honest with you, you missed it. The wealthiest women on the planet just quantum leaped into a completely different financial consciousness, and you stayed exactly where you were, not because you're not capable, not because you're not worthy, because you weren't awake when the portal opened. And now you're going to have to work 10 times harder to catch up to where they already are. Here's what I noticed this morning. I woke up at 3:45 a.m. without an alarm. My body knew. And at exactly 4:11 a.m. I felt this sensation like something was being extracted from my chest. Not painful, just this pulling, emptying feeling. And then this download of information that I can't even fully articulate yet, but I know is going to completely change how I build wealth for the next 6 months minimum. And I know I'm not the only one, because the women who were awake, who were present, who actually showed up for the eclipse, they're all reporting the same thing. They feel different. They know something shifted. They can't go back to who they were yesterday, even if they wanted to. And the women who slept through it, who are just now hearing about the eclipse and realizing they missed it, they're panicking. They're trying to do rituals after the fact. They're trying to tap into energy that already passed. And it's not going to work the same way, because the eclipse wasn't about what you do, it was about who you were willing to become. And you can't become someone new while you're sleeping. Inanna didn't just survive the underworld. She came back wearing a crown nobody could take from her. Let me tell you what happened to Inanna after she was killed and hung on a hook for 3 days. Her servants went to the gods begging for help, and most of the gods refused. They said she chose to descend. She has to face the consequences. But Enki, the god of wisdom, he understood. He created 2 mourners from the dirt under his fingernails, tiny beings with no agenda, and he sent them to the underworld with one instruction: mourn with Ereshkigal. Don't try to fix her. Don't try to save Inanna. Just witness Ereshkigal's pain. And when these mourners arrived and actually saw Ereshkigal, actually acknowledged her suffering without trying to change it, something shifted. Ereshkigal was so moved by being truly seen that she offered them anything they wanted, and they asked for Inanna's corpse, that rotting body on the hook, and Ereshkigal gave it to them. They sprinkled it with the water of life and the food of life, and Inanna rose, not as she was before, as something new, something more. But here's the critical part nobody talks about. When Inanna ascended from the underworld, she wasn't allowed to come back alone. The law of the underworld required a substitute. Someone had to take her place, and as she walked back to her city, she saw everyone mourning, her servants, her children, her advisors, everyone grieving her death, everyone except her husband Dumuzi. He was sitting on her throne wearing her crown, acting like nothing had changed. And Inanna looked at him, this man who couldn't even be bothered to mourn her, who took her power the moment she was gone, and she pointed at him, take this one, and the demons dragged him to the underworld. Not because Inanna was cruel, because she understood something fundamental. You can't come back from death and bring everyone with you. Some people have to be left behind. Some people have to take your place in the darkness, because they were only in your life to teach you what you're not willing to tolerate anymore. That's what happened this morning during the eclipse. Every woman who went through that portal consciously had to leave something behind. Someone behind, some version of herself that was sitting on her throne pretending everything was fine. And the women who are waking up different today, they're the ones who were willing to make that sacrifice. They're the ones who said, take this one to the parts of their life that were extracting their power. And now they're walking back to the surface wearing crowns that can't be taken, because they were forged in the underworld. what it actually feels like to wake up from an eclipse transformed, and why most women have no idea it happened. So let me describe what the women who went through the portal are experiencing right now. Because if you're feeling this, I want you to know you're not alone. And if you're not feeling this, I want you to understand what you missed so you can start the work of catching up. First, clarity. Sudden, sharp, undeniable clarity about what needs to go. Not in a someday kind of way, in a today kind of way. Women are waking up this morning and ending relationships, quitting jobs, cancelling contracts, deleting people from their lives. Not because they're being impulsive, because the eclipse showed them exactly what's been draining them and they can't unsee it. The tolerance they had yesterday for mediocre partnerships, for undervalued work, for one-sided friendships, it's just gone, burned away in the ring of fire. Second, energetic shift. This is hard to describe, but the women who went through are reporting feeling lighter, like a weight they didn't even know they were carrying, just lifted, and it's specific. It's not general anxiety relief. It's the specific weight of other people's expectations, of performance, of trying to be liked. That's what got burned away. And now there's this lightness that comes from only carrying your own life, your own desires, your own sovereignty. Third, magnetic pull toward wealth, not manifestation energy, not vision board energy, actual magnetic pull. Opportunities that were invisible yesterday are suddenly obvious today. Prices that felt impossible to charge yesterday feel reasonable today. Investments that felt too risky yesterday feel necessary today. It's like the eclipse recalibrated your internal wealth thermostat, and now you're operating at a completely different frequency. Fourth, grief. And this one surprises people, but almost every woman who went through the portal is experiencing some level of grief today, because you can see clearly now what you've been tolerating, how long you stayed small, how much you gave away for free, how many years you spent performing instead of being powerful. And that grief is important. Don't skip it. Don't try to positive think your way past it. Feel it, because that grief is the final mourning for the version of you who died last night, and you have to mourn her before you can fully step into who you are now. And fifth, certainty. This is the big one. Women who went through the eclipse are reporting this deep, unshakable certainty about their path forward, not because they have all the details figured out, but because they know who they are now. They know what they're worth. They know what they will and won't tolerate. And that certainty is creating a foundation that can't be shaken by other people's opinions, by market changes, by unexpected obstacles, because it's not based on external validation, it's based on having died and come back. Now, if you're not feeling any of this, if this morning felt completely normal, here's what probably happened. You were asleep, literally or metaphorically, and the eclipse passed over you without activating the death rebirth sequence. You're still the same version you were yesterday, and that's not permanent. You can still do the work, but it's going to require conscious effort. It's going to require you to manually create what the eclipse would have done automatically if you'd been awake. Aquarius, you're walking around with a crown that nobody can see yet, but in 6 months they'll bow. If you're an Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, you need to understand what just happened to you this morning. The eclipse was in your sign, at the very last degree. This wasn't just a reset. This was a coronation. You just became the queen of a kingdom that doesn't exist yet. And for the next 6 months, you're going to be building that kingdom in the dark, without recognition, without validation, without anyone understanding what you're doing. Here's what I'm seeing for Aquarius specifically. This morning you woke up with this knowing that you can't be part of the collective the way you used to be, that community-oriented, everyone's friend, accessible to all version of you. She died last night, and what's rising is the sovereign leader who serves the collective from overflow, not depletion, who builds community from wealth, not from people-pleasing. And here's what's going to be hard about the next 6 months for you. Nobody's going to understand this shift yet. They're going to notice you're different. They're going to feel your new boundaries. They're going to sense your unavailability, but they're not going to see the crown. They're not going to recognize the sovereignty because you're building it invisibly. You're creating a completely new relationship to power that won't be fully visible until the Leo eclipse in August completes this axis. Between now and August, your job is simple. Build in the dark, set boundaries without explanation, charge premium prices without justification, choose your sovereignty over their comfort every single time, and don't expect applause, don't expect recognition, don't expect people to celebrate this transformation. Most of them are going to resist it because your old accessibility made them comfortable, and your new sovereignty makes them have to look at their own lack of boundaries. But in August, when the Leo eclipse hits and suddenly everything you've been building invisibly becomes visible, they're going to bow. They're going to finally see the kingdom you built, the wealth you created, the power you claimed. And by then, you won't need their validation, because you'll have spent 6 months knowing you're a queen, even when nobody else could see it. Leo, you felt the eclipse from the opposite side, and now your invisible power is about to become undeniable. Now, Leo, sun, moon, or rising, the eclipse was opposite your sign, which means you felt it differently, not as a death, as a revelation. This morning, if you were awake, you saw clearly for the first time what you've been building in private, the version of you that exists when nobody's watching, and you realize that version is more powerful than the performance you've been giving publicly. Here's what I think happened for Leo specifically. The eclipse showed you the gap between who you've been performing as and who you actually are, and that gap is wealth, that gap is power, that gap is the difference between being liked and being valuable. And now you have a choice. You can keep performing the version that gets approval, or you can reveal the version that commands investment. The next 6 months for you are about making that private power public, not through performance, through pricing, through boundaries, through selective availability, through letting people see that the radiant, accessible, always-on Leo they knew was actually just the surface. And underneath is this sovereign, expensive, selectively available woman who only shows up where she's truly valued. And here's what's going to happen. Some people are going to celebrate this. They're going to see your new pricing, your new boundaries, your new selectivity, and they're going to step up. They're going to match your new value with actual investment, with reciprocity, with respect. These people become your new foundation, but others are going to punish you for it. They're going to call you changed, cold, not the same person. They're going to try to guilt you back into the old performance, and your job is to let them leave, because those people were never investing in you. They were consuming you, and the eclipse just made that distinction visible. Between now and August, when the next eclipse in your sign hits, every time someone complains about your new boundaries, your new prices, your new unavailability, thank them, because they just identified themselves as someone who valued your accessibility more than your actual worth, and now you know exactly who to release. Libra, you just chose and you can't take it back. And that's exactly the point. Okay, Libra, sun, moon, or rising, this morning the eclipse forced you to do the thing you hate most. Choose. Make a decision that can't be undone. Pick a side that can't be balanced. And if you were awake, you felt it. That moment where you realized you can't have both wealth and everyone's approval. You can't have both power and universal likability. You can't have both sovereignty and constant accessibility. You have to choose. And somewhere this morning, probably around 4:11 a.m. if you were conscious, you made that choice. Maybe you didn't make it consciously. Maybe it made itself. But something in you chose wealth over likability, chose power over approval, chose boundaries over being everyone's favorite person. And now you're waking up into the reality of that choice, and it probably feels uncomfortable. Here's what the next 6 months look like for Libra. You're going to be tested on this choice repeatedly. People are going to ask you to go back to the balanced version, to be the mediator, to keep the peace, to make sure everyone's comfortable. And every time you say no, every time you maintain your boundary, every time you choose your wealth over their comfort, you're going to feel that Libra discomfort of imbalance, of disrupted harmony, of someone being unhappy with you. And your job is to sit with that discomfort without fixing it, to let people be disappointed without rushing in to smooth it over, to maintain the imbalance even when everything in you wants to restore equilibrium, because that's how you build wealth. not through balance, through the willingness to be radically imbalanced in favor of your own power. What I'm seeing for you specifically is that the eclipse just deleted your ability to split the difference. That middle path you've been finding your whole life, that compromise that keeps everyone happy, it's gone. The portal burned it away, and now you only have two options. Choose yourself or choose them. And the wealthy version of you, the version that just got activated this morning, she chooses herself every single time. The 72-hour integration protocol, and why this is actually more important than the eclipse itself. All right, so here's what most people get wrong about eclipses. They think the eclipse itself is the transformation. It's not. The eclipse is the download. The transformation is what you do in the 72 hours after, because right now your system is wide open, the portal is still active, the new consciousness is installed, but it's not locked in yet. And what you do in the next 3 days will determine whether this shift becomes permanent or whether you slip back into the old patterns. First, protect your energy field. For the next 72 hours, you are extraordinarily vulnerable to other people's projections, to their opinions about your shift, to their discomfort with your new boundaries. And if you're not careful, their resistance can shake your certainty, can make you question what you know, can pull you back into the old version. So limit contact. Don't explain yourself. Don't justify your changes. Just be different and let people adjust or leave. Second, document everything. The insights from this morning, the clarity you received, the knowing that downloaded, write it all down. Because in 3 days, when the portal closes, you're going to start doubting it. You're going to wonder if it was real. You're going to question whether you actually changed or just imagined it. And having it written down in your own handwriting from today will anchor you when doubt comes. Third, make one irreversible decision. This is critical. The eclipse gave you clarity about what needs to change. Now you need to prove to the universe that you're serious by making one change that can't be undone. End a relationship that's been draining you. Quit a job that's been undervaluing you. Cancel a contract that's been one-sided. Raise your prices effective immediately. Something that declares to reality, I'm not the same person I was yesterday, and I'm never going back. Fourth, rest deep, intentional rest. Not scrolling, not consuming content, not filling the silence with noise. Actual rest. Because your system just died and came back, your consciousness just upgraded to a new operating system. And that requires integration time. Your body needs to catch up to your spirit. Your nervous system needs to adjust to your new frequency, and that only happens in rest. And fifth, watch for confirmation. Over the next 72 hours, the universe is going to send you signs that you made it through, opportunities that match your new frequency, people who recognize and respect your new boundaries, situations that require the sovereign version of you instead of the performing version. Pay attention to these, not as coincidences, as confirmation that you're now operating in a completely different reality. Why the next 6 months matter more than the past 6 years, and what rich women are building right now. This eclipse just opened a 6-month portal from now until August 12th, when the Leo eclipse completes this axis, and what you build in these 6 months is going to matter more than anything you built in the past 6 years, because you're building from a completely different foundation now, from sovereignty instead of performance, from wealth consciousness instead of scarcity, from feminine power instead of masculine hustle. The women who woke up different this morning, they're already building, they're already making moves, they're already implementing the downloads they received, and by August they're going to be unrecognizable, not because they're hustling harder, because they're operating from a completely different energetic signature, one that attracts wealth instead of chasing it, one that commands investment instead of begging for it, one that creates scarcity through selectivity instead of accessibility through people-pleasing. Here's what the rich women are doing right now in these first hours after the eclipse. They're raising prices immediately, not waiting for permission, not easing into it, just declaring their new value and letting the market adjust. They're ending relationships that don't reciprocate, not trying to fix them, not giving one more chance, just releasing them and trusting that better connections are coming. They're setting boundaries without explanation. not softening them with apologies, not justifying them with logic, just stating them as facts and moving on. And they're doing all of this before doubt creeps in, before fear takes over, before the old patterns try to reinstall. They're moving fast in these first 72 hours because they know the portal won't stay open forever. They know certainty fades. They know courage requires momentum. And they're using the eclipse energy while it's still active to lock in changes that their old self would never have had the guts to make. If you woke up different this morning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can feel that urgency, that knowing that you need to move now, that if you wait, you'll talk yourself out of it. So don't wait. Make the move, raise the price, end the relationship, set the boundary, quit the job. Whatever the eclipse showed you needs to change. Change it today, not next week, not when you feel ready, today, while the portal is still open, while the courage is still fresh, while the certainty hasn't been eroded by other people's opinions. And if you didn't wake up different, if you slept through the eclipse, here's your work. You have to manually create what the eclipse would have done automatically. You have to consciously choose to die to the old version, to release what's been draining you, to claim your sovereignty, to step into your wealth consciousness. It's harder this way, it takes more effort, but it's still possible. You just have to be willing to do the work. All right, the eclipse is done. The ring of fire opened and closed, and the wealthy women just woke up in a completely different reality, while the broke ones didn't even notice anything changed. If you felt the shift this morning, if you know you're different now, if you can't go back to who you were yesterday even if you wanted to, welcome to the other side. The next 6 months are going to be wild. The next 72 hours are critical. And the version of you that just got activated this morning, she's going to build a kingdom that makes your old life unrecognizable. Start now.